education provides mobility to help people get out of poverty, to equip them to be productive citizens. Right. And if that avenue is closed or that avenue is not functioning, then that negatively impact not only the kids but the community and them becoming an adult. It affects them all through life.
And you know, Elder Bullingham, when I heard that, and I heard, you know, and I've read the papers and I've heard about these failing schools, and as I recall, most of them, if not all of them, are in serve the African American community or
inner city community.
Inner city, or they're predominantly black schools. Okay, so as the black community, we should be really outraged, and I'm not saying at someone or what have you. I'm saying outraged to action. We should be outraged to action. In other words, this should disturb us enough until, just as you said, we are moved to get involved. Yes. And that was the reason. When I heard that, I said, you know, I heard about this upcoming meeting that just took place recently. NAACP is holding this meeting to talk about education and bringing the religious community together to get their perspective and take on it. And I said, you know, I really need to be there. You're going to see some footage of that because I was there, brought some cameras and got it. So we're going to be showing that. But it outraged me to action that I felt, you know, I don't have kids in the school system anymore, but I need to do something. And it's just ridiculous in my mind to think that we have that many failing schools, and you know, most folk are just business as usual. It's like, let me say this: I believe that many just simply do not know what to do. What can we do? Well, hopefully from this broadcast, you will learn what you can do as a concerned citizen. And we're not just speaking to black folks; we're speaking to black, white. I don't have children in the school system, but I'm concerned. I may not be, somebody may be watching that's not black, that and these schools don't really affect your community, but you are a concerned citizen. And when we show this footage, we're going to realize it wasn't just African Americans that showed up. I was blessed to see all walks of life, from people from Africa and Caucasians and blacks and so forth, all voicing their concern about what's going on in our schools and the need for us to do something about it.
Today we were gathered together to try to get the moral imperative from the religious community, their explanation of what it means to be involved in the children's education. And I think we've accomplished that. I think we did a very good job of selecting speakers from varying cultures. We're really proud that the community showed out, and we're looking forward to doing more activities like these. And we think this is going to be a great value in making sure that the parents understand that they have to be involved in the child's education. Absolutely. Let me answer the last part first. I think we did accomplish it. What we hope to gain is a coalition of people who are willing to do some things in a positive way. I'm encouraged that we can take these pastors and the participants that watch the discourse more involved and actively doing things like mentoring, doing things like tutoring, providing after-school care for our kids. Our kids are an investment. It's more precious than any bank account, any car, any home. This is the thing that you need to be concerned about. This is our pathway to the future. We have to be involved in our children's education. Get involved in the education of your children. They are worth it. They also need it. There are a lot of changes on the horizon that might have a whole different paradigm shift for education in the area. We need to really understand exactly what's going on, and now is the time. We're not sure whether or not the changes that could occur are good or bad. We know that they are tremendous, and they bear watching. Our goal is to educate the public about the possibilities of these changes. We're not advocates of charter schools. We're not necessarily against change. We just want the kids' education to be front and foremost, and we have to have the kids parents involved to do that? Well, you can contact the NAACP Education Committee. You can call that number. They'll put you in contact with somebody from our committee. But there are a lot of organizations that are not necessarily tied to the NAACP that we think have value. We're looking at the Boys and Girls Club. We're looking at PTAs and PTOs in different communities. We want to augment everything that they have going. We have no intentions of trying to reinvent the wheel. We want to substitute our energy for change. And, we're going to follow the natural course of this thing. Whatever it is, if charter school takes over, we'll have to deal with that. The main thing that we need to understand is we have to become involved in our children's future.
My point is that even if textbooks, curricula, policies are equal throughout a school system, we won't have equality in our schools unless we expect all of our children to reach their potential and offer additional supports for those at a disadvantage.
Yes, my name is Imam Matthew Abdullah, and I'm the resident imam of the Pritchett Masjid of Al-Islam in Pritchett, Alabama. We're here today to discuss the importance of the imperative of parental involvement in our children's education. And I think that there is paramount for us as concerned citizens, responsible citizens, that we should always be concerned about our children. So I really appreciate being a part of this program tonight. The presenters was so great, and everything that we talked about showed unity among the different faiths. And that's what I like to see, unity among the faiths. We all have something in common, and we're all one big family under God.
Oh, gracious and oh, loving God, we desire to share this information with our viewing audience, that they understand the importance of rearing of children, and the importance of equipping them to be productive citizens, not only in this life, but in the next. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Elder Bolahan, you was on that panel.
Yes.
Of this particular event put on by the NAACP. Now, briefly, tell us a little bit about what was that whole evening to accomplish? What was the purpose of that evening?
The evening was to bring information and to make the public aware that, as you stated previously, that the state that decided to take over 5 schools in this area, and they're going to be like privatization of schools. I mean that private institutions coming in, they're going to run the schools. The school system agreed to this. They're going to have to set down the criteria for the schools to come in, and they hadn't did that yet. And I talked to Dr. Crenshaw. He was saying that they was going to request from the state additional year before they have to implement this. But so it was to bring the community aware that the privatization of these schools was going to take place here in Mobile.
Now, these schools were taken over by the state because they were underperforming schools?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and you have some principals who saying that really is the criteria that you use to take over schools is not actually accurate. They say that some of the tests are culturally biased. Some children just test poorly, but for as being taught, they are being taught.
Let me ask you this, Elder Bolahan. I've talked to teachers. They have a particular take on it. I've talked to some parents. Of course, they have a particular take on it. The condition of these schools, and they underperforming schools, they've been taken over by the state.
Mm-hmm.
And you can elaborate in whatever way you see fit. At the heart of this issue, who's at fault?
Well, this blame can go around. First of all, you have one size fit all by the federal government. They believe that everybody has to be taught the same identical thing. And so when you do that, that don't mean that everybody in every geographical area in this country, every culture in this country, have the same concept or have the same need for certain types of I know everybody needs to read and write, but I'm talking about how do you motivate people when you're dealing with, for instance, world history, and you leave out everybody out of world history except the Eurocentric concept when you teach just European history. I was inspired to learn by studying my history. It created a desire for me to learn more.
So you're saying that because history may more center around the European component or element than say African American experience and what have you, the African American kids might sit in that class and not really be compelled or interested because it's saying nothing about them, and if it is, it's just you were slaves.
Yeah, and you don't see yourself in the history, and by you not seeing yourself, you just feel like this really is not pertinent to you in your situation. But also, when you also have teachers who actually believe that children cannot learn, and if you're afraid of the kids,
okay,
that's a bad example. Then you if you're afraid of the kids, you normally look for opportunities to send them out of your class,
right? And
then they go to what you call media classes, where they just manage their time, but they're really not challenged.
Okay.
You must have expectations of a kid to learn. Then you have some teachers that shouldn't be in the classroom, because if they don't believe a child can learn, why would you be a teacher?
Right.
Okay. Then you have the Republican Party, who don't like the unions, because the unions normally vote Democratic. So by the unions normally vote Democratic, the Republican Party normally is undermining the public school and taking money from the public school and giving it to charter schools.
Okay.
Then you have unions that's more concerned about protecting teachers than they are concerned about educating kids.
Okay.
There are some teachers that need to be got rid of.
Okay.
But the union protect them. So now there's a lot in there, Joseph, that I just said about
right.
A lot of the reasons. Parents also, sometimes they are not equipped, or sometimes they don't have time. They got 2 or 3 jobs, trying to work, single parents trying to work to make a living. Sometimes they are not equipped also with the information that's coming home, but that don't excuse it, because they can just tutoring and get that together. Churches can be involved.
You know, I'm glad you brought in, and you bringing in the element of the church too. I want to share something on that myself. But I was listening to you, and I'm glad you brought in the parents, because I'm sure some teachers was getting really upset.
Yes.
Because it's like, wait a minute, you trying to make it look like, it's all on us. But I think at the very heart of this issue, now you said a lot of important things. And we got to figure out how we can, all of these different entities can come together and work together. And you even pointed out how just some parents are just so strapped with job and so forth, it's very difficult for them. But I personally, and maybe it's just me, but I believe at the very center and the heart of this issue is the home. I know there's a lot of other dynamics, and if you go into a system that's stacked against you, it's going to hinder you. But I've seen some children in some very challenging situations, still go forward and thrive. In other words, it has a lot to do with what's in the child and what's put in the child. Now, if it's a child that, again, as you pointed out, there are some homes that they don't know how to be nurturing to their children in that way,
kids
because
themselves.
they never now, and that's where the responsibility, in my opinion, of the church has to come in. That the church has to try to come in and help those families in that regard. But I truly believe mother and father, and many don't have a father in the home and it's single parents, but I think I even heard you say this, but your household is your first institution of learning.
That's where you're going. It's the first classroom for a kid.
If you don't begin to pick up who you are, regardless of he trying to work on me with that word, but regardless of what you step out of your house, because see, we got to find a way, because a lot of times we're going to have to minister to kids that we're not going to be able to take them out of their environment. So we've got to put something in them that strengthens them in the environment right where they are.